In this video, I'm going to be putting my own personal twist on what I think is one of the absolute best introductory tutorials on Rhino. That being the tutorial on modeling a simple glass of water. That tutorial was quick, concise, and perfectly presented. Mine won't be, but mine will still be worth watching if you have a bit of time to kill. We'll basically be modeling a slightly more complex glass, a beer glass of course complete with a handle, but not the one that's in front of you. We'll model a simpler version to keep the video short. I also didn't do the greatest job on this glass. After creating our glass, we'll put a colored liquid in the glass. It will basically be flat beer, no bubbles. Maybe we'll add that in the future. So let's get started and get out of ray trace mode before my computer blows up. So as you can see, I already have some geometry prepared. One quick way to create a glass, if you don't mind creating a profile first, is to just use revolve. So that creates a nice shape. I think it created multiple components, but I'm going to check that really quick. And this will be important later when we actually create the liquid. So yeah, the revolve is one way to create a glass, but when I created this one, I actually used revolve. But in previous mini projects, I used the loft command, and that worked out better for me. And you'll see later that it also gives us an advantage when I create the contents of the glass. So I already have these drawn, basically using this as a guide. It's just a bunch of circles sized to roughly where I need them. So I'm going to loft them. I'm just going to change the color of this one just so you can see it a little bit better. And I'll set my zoom extents to these objects. So I'll go loft. We'll do loose because that gives the approximate shape that I'm looking for here. And we'll go with that. Okay, so I think I'm okay to actually delete all those circles. We're actually going to use that one again. I'm going to do an offset. Distance is already what I want it. Go in like that. I'm going to extrude this. Make sure it's not set to solid. Go down to about there. Let's select the bottom of the circle, do a planar surface. I'm going to join that to that. So I basically just have a pipe with one end capped. I'm going to do fillet edge. Next radius we'll do 0.75 inches. And I think that'll look pretty good. Your glass doesn't have to match these dimensions. This will just look about right, but you can play around with this, experiment a little bit. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. I'm just showing you one way to model a glass. Anyways, we're going to do a blend surface. I'm going to select this one and this one. Now I can't select these individual ones. I got to use this control right here. I want this to be fairly flat, but still tangent. So we'll go okay. So now we can join all these if we want. get my properties up. I'm going to do cap. So we have our closed solid poly surface. And do a plane and make it vertical and try to get it right in the center of my glass. I'm going to use this as a drawing plane for the handle. So that looks about right. I could use blend curve. It's probably going to be easier if I explode this. So I'm going to explode it. That way my little nodes here are closer to where I actually want them. Do flip 1. I want the bottom part of the handle a little bit more rounded than the top. Trim and join. I'm going to trim it, but I'm not going to join it quite yet. So we'll trim that, delete that. For this top, I'm going to take a shortcut and just fillet it. Let's try 0.5 first. I think that'll be too big though. That's not too bad. We'll go with that. So I'm going to join these. Check out the points, make sure they're not, I don't really have to do any fixing on this line. We're going to use it for a loft in just a little bit. I just want to make sure these points aren't all haywire, or there's not too many points. If there were, then I might rebuild this, but I think we're good. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to reset my C-plane. I'm going to draw the profile of the handle, roughly what I think it should be. Put it on a different layer just so we can see what's going on a little bit more easily. Okay, so we have that. I'm just going to check my dimensions. So about 3/8 of an inch, about 5/8 of an inch. Put some nice rounded edges on it. So this profile, if you spend time on the handle, you can make it look a lot better, but I'm just going to kind of burn through this and just make a very basic handle. But yeah, you'll see in just a second here, when I do the orient on curve, I'll just select the very middle of that object I just created. You want the copy set to yes here, and let's do the perpendicular option. And that gets exactly the orientation we want. You won't always be so lucky. Sometimes you have to actually select the object and play around with the orientation. You do have options here for like flip, X flip, Y flip, but we got lucky, so we don't have to use all that stuff. So I'm going to go along my curve. Put one right at the end. So this would be where, if you want to really, I'm going to scale this up by 1.25. I'm going to set my C-plane to this object. And that's just one way to make your gumball aligned to the object. You can right click on the gumball too. In Rhino 8, sometimes align to object is working for me the way I want, sometimes not. But if I do align the C-plane to the object, I can always get the gumball aligned how I want it. Yeah, so we can mess with the handle geometry a little bit right now if we go to these like one by one and scale them or reshape them. For example, I could have round profile sections up here. I could go from this shape to a perfectly circular shape. But since this is just a quick basic demo. I'm just going to keep things simple. So now we're going to do loft. Lately I've been having issues with these seams not lining up, but it's very easy to correct it. So I'm just going to grab this guy because I can tell right now it's not lined up. I'm going to put that there. You could use a sweep for this as well, but the loft for me so far is working just fine. I'm going to go enter. We can try out the different styles. You can see that doesn't look too perfect, but also glasses aren't, they're not usually forged or cast or whatever you call it, what they do. They're not usually perfect anyway, so that's what makes this this modeling task pretty forgiving, because it's not, doesn't require any real perfection, I guess. But I'm going to do loose because that just looks a little bit better. We'll go okay. I can delete all these curves. I'm going to keep these curves, and I could recreate them if I delete them just by doing copy and place if I really wanted. But I'll keep it like that. We're going to use these curves to kind of blend the two, the handle with the glass. So I'm going to scale this up 1.5. Maybe even a little bit more. Yeah. We won't need this curve anymore, so that gets deleted. So you can see this curve is pretty rough. We could rebuild it. You might rebuild it. That looks kind of funny, doesn't it? But yeah, remember, it's just glass. It's just melted into place, right? So that would be actually pretty realistic. If the glass was perfect, that wouldn't really be realistic unless it was some like $400 beer glass, right? So you could rebuild this. We're going to end up with an ugly surface, but we're just going to leave it. You might rebuild it. You might have to pull the curve back onto the surface, but you're going to be left with a way friendlier object. So if you're really aiming for lower poly, low memory and stuff like that, that would be something you want to do, but we're just going to get this done. So perfection is not a goal here. So let's do the split command. Select this, and this. So that should split our object. And that gets us ready for the next step, which is the blend surface. And you can see all these lines. We could have prevented that if we wanted. And that looks pretty good. I'll just leave that. Okay, we can join everything together. Close solid poly surface, so we're ready for the next step. I already have some materials made, but maybe I'll make like a different colored beer just to show you how I go about doing that. But I'm just going to use the default glass. And you just get the exact same thing if you just click on this right here. I haven't edited this at all. You can go further and make like a physically based. I'm doing the beer as physically based because in the future I'm going to add stuff to this. Maybe bubbles, maybe some murkiness, because a lot of beers like IPAs will actually have a very small suspended solids in it. Anyways, we'll do the rendered view. So we have a decent looking glass. We'll go back to... So now earlier I said the revolve, the reason I prefer doing the loft is it gives you a better overall solid to work with. And I know I just created these ugly things, but that doesn't matter too much. But now when we create our... I'm just doing copy and place. And select the surface I just created. I'm going to do change layer just so we know, so we can differentiate it. Now I'm going to do cap. So we kind of have a liquid in there. I'm going to do plane. Bring it up to the level that I want my beer to be. But yeah, so to create that is much easier with the loft than the revolve. And it might just be my line work or whatever, but yeah, if you want a quick and easy solution, just draw the profile of your glass, revolve it. But if you want to take the time to set up your loft, you might get a better result to work with from that. So we'll split that, we'll delete that. So the beer is just a, let's just create a new material. Yeah, it's a physically based material. Let's just copy my settings from this. I have 10% opacity. This one is just beer foam that I was experimenting with. I'll show you how that looks. It doesn't look too great. I'll put that all the way down to 10. Pick a color. We'll go with a, let's go with a lager this time. We'll try that out. Now when you're in rendered view, your beer's not going to look quite, or your liquid's going to look a lot lighter than it really is. So to go into, we'll go into ray traced. So I like the color. You can see something weird's going on around the glass, and we're going to fix that in just a second. So to fix that, we have to overlap our liquid, which obviously in Rhino it's a closed solid poly surface, but I'm just going to refer to it as a liquid right now. But this has to overlap our glass just ever so slightly. So I'm going to do shift and select, and we're going to scale it just by 1 point. Let's do 1.05. Actually, that might be too much. So let's do. So let's go back into ray traced. And that smoothed out all that weird graphical glitching we were seeing. Before ending the video, I just wanted to give you a better representation of how cool the glass material looks in Rhino. With only one object in the model, you just don't get an appreciation for all the reflections and everything. Now with 4 glasses, 3 different colors of beer, I'm getting a lot of way more interesting effects. You can see some of the amber colored beer reflecting in here. Better overall reflections. You also notice that, of course, I have 3 different colors of beer now, and I can change these colors pretty easily. I can make this look more like a darker stout if I just take the material, turn it to a darker color. I could change the opacity too, maybe put that up to 25. The roughness, I'll leave that alone for now, but as you can tell, it's very, very easy to adjust materials. And yeah, I've made a foam material as well, and it looks okay from far away, but if you wanted to do a good job, you'd probably have to spend a little bit of time on this, maybe find like a foam or bubble or soap texture. But yeah, especially from far away, it gets the job done. Anyways, I wanted to keep this video to about 20 minutes, so that means I have to cut myself off and say thanks very much for watching.